that prospect has seen the house from the outside, like what they see, and then tell you they got money or credit, do you bother collecting information from them? Now, will that in itself reduce the number of calls you take from 20 a day to 2 a day? Yes? Okay. And then the other plan is drive them into a voicemail box. Drive them into a live operator. Let the operator fill out the script, not the application now. Don't try to get the operator to fill out the application. You've got to remember, these people taking these calls are not more than one grade above Popeye's chicken employees. Don't expect them to do too much. Don't expect them to try to get all this information. That's way too much for you to expect them to do. All you want them to do is your little short script. Because at the same time, if you wish, they can drive them to the house. But if I were you, I wouldn't even do that. If you're going to use a live operator, because they'll screw that up, I would just have them get these and email them to me. All right? And then I'd pick up the phone and I'd call the ones that pass the test. And how do they pass the test? Credit or money or both. Boy, when they got both, call them now. Call them now, and you will get them. At the end of the day, you're going to get a whole pile of these, and you'll be able to throw 90% of them away and focus on the 10% that you need to call. Now, instead of sucking your life up with all those incoming calls all day, every day, now you get to sit down at whenever you decide during one little part of the day and call them all back at the same time. So you've taken all that work and put it into 1/2 an hour step. If you don't reach them, call them later. And frankly, if you don't reach them and you leave a message on their machine and they don't call you back, they're whacked. They're out of here. Don't chase people. Don't chase them. Did you know that you can go through the whole rest of your life and not have to deal with people who don't want to deal with you? You know there's no law that says you have to beg people to deal with you? In fact, I'm telling you something. The older you get and the more money you get, the more you'll realize, get rid of them quickly. And I don't care what they do or who they are. I don't care what business you're in. If you spend your time pre-screening the people, just a couple of minutes pre-screening people that want to do business with you and getting the rest out of your life, it'll be so much easier than try to get people to do something they don't want to do. If I had somebody call me on this property and they've seen this property and I can't even reach them and they won't come back to me after I've left a message on their machine, as far as I'm concerned, they're out of here. They're out of the running. So, there's 3 ways for you to handle prospects right there. You're going to have to decide which one you want. Incidentally, I forgot to tell you now, Pat Live will take your incoming voicemail calls and transcribe them and email them to you. Hello? So if a customer just leaves their name and number even on the voicemail, you can get that information. And Pat Live will know their phone number because they capture them with caller ID. In addition to asking them for it if you want them to. All right. Let's move on down that list then. Step 2. If prospect has money or credit, give them the address and the lockbox code. If they don't give it to them. If they have neither, whack them. Step 3. If the buyer has money or credit, see if you can get the information while they're on the phone. And remember, that can be on the front end, or it can be after they've seen the house and said they want it, or at the very least, while they're in the front yard waiting to get the lockbox code to get in the house. The further you run them down that pre-screening sift and sort mechanism before you talk to them, the better you're going to like it. And I'm telling you, the more houses you're going to sell with the least amount of effort. Number 4, leave the information sheets in the house about the house. Make sure you leave one in there about the house they're in. And all the questions they could ask you about the house are right there on the sheet. Ask yourself, what would they possibly ask me? and put it on a flyer. What school? How many square feet's in the house? How old's the house? In fact, if you guys have got an appraisal, as you should have before you bought the property, all the facts are right there on the appraisal. Don't leave on the appraisal because you're going to sell it for more than that. But all the facts are right there for you, most of the facts. And after a while, when they start asking you questions that aren't on there, you'll learn to add them. So you create a format. You know, you only got to create one template, and in every house you get, you just plug in the blanks. Spit it out, leave it right there on the counter for them. And remember, you got to go by now every few days to check, make your signs are up, put your flyers back in the house when they steal them, and remove all the realtor's cards from the premises. Put some flyers outside the house. Put some flyers outside the house. You know, they don't need the lockbox code to get flyers to learn all about the house. You have to replenish those. The kids love to make airplanes out of them. And leave some flyers about your other houses. And then don't forget to leave applications in the house where they can fill out the shorty. See, when they see that little short application, it's not intimidating. I'll put a little note right there. If you're interested in the house, please fill this out and fax it to me at the number below or call. And you can take that information on the phone in about 90 seconds. Okay, when the prospects call you back after looking, take their application over the phone if you haven't already. You do not need to meet the buyer to do this. If it's not coming in by fax, they'll call you on the phone, or in fact, what if you told them to go to WeSellHouses.com and fill it out online and email it to you, which will be, of course, your website, whatever your website is. Tell them to go to your website, and there they'll find an application that they can email. And I'm telling you, a lot of them will do that. And wouldn't it be great if you just get out of bed in the morning and there you have on your email 10 or 12 applications about people interested in your house? And you haven't done it, and you haven't even been a part of the deal yet? It's normal. Normal. Now, you've got the application. You may or may not have talked to your prospect. You've been in it a while. It'll be may not. You can send the application right to your mortgage broker or lender, of which you will be able to find with no more than a couple of phone calls or asking a couple of people you know where they take their prospects to. Believe me, lenders are not hard to find, and mortgage brokers who will take your applications to your lenders are not hard to find. If I were you guys, I'd get mortgage brokers to process your applicants for you. It generally don't cost you anything because the lender pays them. They do all the work. They'll tell you what'll work. They're a great help to you. And you probably are going to need a couple, 3 of those, not just one. Do not put all your eggs in one mortgage broker's basket. Couple, 3 of them. They all have different types of loan programs. Some of them are better at follow-up than others. Some of them you're going to have to fire. They're just like contractors. You're going to have to fire one every month or so, or retrain them. So you need more than one mortgage broker to get your applicants to. And I'll tell you, honestly, that mortgage broker can mean success or failure in your opportunity to sell houses. If you've got someone there that's looking for that perfect buyer and that's all they know how to handle, better expand your horizons. Anybody who makes loans on houses will take that perfect buyer and get them approved. It's those mortgage brokers who can see beyond that perfect buyer, who have a bunch of programs, who know how to get buyers in with nothing down, who know how to get them 70, 80, 90% loans and carry back seconds, and who know where to take them to, and who has programs available for low interest loans as well as higher interest loans. Your mortgage broker needs to have a whole plethora of loan programs available depending on the quality or qualifications of your buyer. Don't go to a loan broker who don't do anything but FHA or VA or Fannie Mae loans. You ought to get to somebody who's a lot more creative than that. Send your application to them, and they will in fact call you back or not. The ones who you will continue to do are the ones who will call you back. But for the most part, you're going to have to chase them because they have lousy follow-up just like everybody else in business out there nowadays. So you send them the application and you're going to have to call them. few hours later, see if they got it done yet. When they say no, you call them a few hours later, get my application over here to me. And sooner or later, you'll learn to do business with those who want to do business with you, who are chasing your business because you're a good supply of business. And all the rest of them, you will whack. Do business with the people who want to do business with you. And get rid of the rest of them. Now you know what kind of a loan program your buyer can go into. Because you're a lender. Your mortgage broker will pull their credit, check their debt ratio, and see if they will qualify. He'll tell you what their credit score is. She will. And folks, anybody with a credit score over about 560 can get an FHA loan. They don't have to have great credit to get financed. 560 is not a great credit score. A great credit score is considered in the 7s. The mortgage lenders and bankers, if you got buyers in the 6s, they get orgasmic. You get them in the high 5s and they're done. As long as they got something to work with, like income and their debt ratio is not out of whack. Get them below that 560 range, you're into a different type of financing, which will not include 100% financing or 97%. That means they're just simply going to lower the loan-to-value ratio to compensate for the credit, and you'll be taking back a second mortgage for part of your sales price. It's all part of the business. How many of you, upon selling a $100,000 house, would be happy to take back a $10,000 second mortgage to get the rest of it in cash? All of you should raise your hands, especially when you know you're going to raise the $100,000 price to $110,000. So let me see. I raise it to 110. I take back a 10 second, but I get 100 cash. Yeah, that'll work. Because before I went to that seminar the other day, I was going to sell it for 100 cash anyway. I don't see why having a $10,000 free second wouldn't work for me. Especially when I don't have a dime in it. And I got the rest of my money. There's a whole world, folks, of secondary financing out there, of lenders and institutions that will lend if your borrower has got a way to pay the money back and provable income, there's a loan program for them. A loan program. I just got a borrower approved a few months ago with a 440 credit score.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
440. There is no earthly justification for this individual to buy a house. There is zero chance this individual will not default on this loan. It's just a matter of time. But the lender said, we'll take them. Now, I had to take back a 15%, in other words, 15% of the sales price on a second mortgage. Because the lender only financed them, the lender financed them for 80%. Buyer had 5% down, and I took back a 15% second to get it done. I will never collect that 15% second. I knew it before I okayed it. It wasn't after that 15%, I was after that 85%. The rest of it was just a free bonus. One of those second mortgages that you get that you trade for motorhomes. Free bonus. So the more flexible you are on your exit strategies, the more you understand, if you do your business correctly, you don't have to get 100% cash out of every deal. There are all kinds of loan programs out there that you can get your buyers into without getting 100% cash. Add that now to the fact that if you really get it, you get trained on the other part of the business, you can put out people in lease option properties all day long with $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10, $15,000 or more $1,000 and give them time to buy. If you structure your business so you don't have to cash out of every single deal, which I will absolutely teach you how to do if you give me a chance, then you create flexibility in your exit strategy so that you can take whatever comes along, whatever kind of buyer comes along that loves the house, and find out a way to finance them if they have anything to work with. My first criteria is that I want somebody who loves that house. That's more important to me than anything else. But unfortunately, it's not hard to find people who love the house that don't have money or credit. Give me somebody who loves the house with one of those two, and I will bust my hump to get them in the property. Even if I have to take back a second mortgage for part of my sales price, and even if I don't believe I'll ever collect it. But again, they must love the house, and they must have a down payment, or they must have decent credit. And decent credit is defined as anything about 560 or above. Make sure you inspect the house once a week to keep it mowed, get locked up. Remember, you're giving out lockbox codes. Make sure there's a key in the lockbox. Replace the signs, replace the flyers. Do not ignore the property. Just because you got it in good shape last week and had it all stocked up and had all the signs up, don't be upset when you go over there this week and none of that stuff's there. That's the nature of the beast. If you'll go back to me for a moment with page 67, there's one very important piece of paper that I want to point out to you that I have not done yet. Look at 67 down to number 7. It says, if it's a go, have your prospect meet you somewhere rather than the house and get a deposit and an application receipt agreement signed, which you will find on page 72. If you'll turn to page 72, you will discover a really cool little document that I wished I had when I was growing up. There's two very important points in number 7 that I must bring forth. You should not meet your prospect at the house. You should not meet your prospect at the house. A, I don't want you sitting in your driveway at your house waiting for somebody to show up. B, if your prospect meets you at the house, they want to pick it apart. They want to negotiate. C, if your prospect has been given the lockbox code to go in and look at the house, why on earth they need to meet you there? What are you going to tell them they don't already know? There's a flyer right there on the counter with all the information. They can see the house for themselves. You don't need to meet them at the house. You do not show houses. You do not meet anybody at any house at any time for any reason except contractors. If you're selling junkers for wholesale, you don't ever meet them there anyway. You send the buyers. If you're doing lease options, whether you're selling them for cash, lease option, owner finance, it doesn't matter. The process is the same. You send them to the house, let them go in the house after they tell you they got something to work with. Now, I know you guys are going to miss all of those people who don't show up and all that wasted time, but you can find something else to do with your time. Let the realtor show the house. They love to do that. Remember, all your houses are vacant. You don't need to be there. Lockbox, incidentally, you can get at Home Depot for $25. I like them too because they're real simple. We just bought one the other day, and you press 0. And you can change the combination. I don't ever change mine. First of all, I don't know how. Second of all, I'm not reading the directions inside that lockbox. Besides, why would I want to change it? The lockbox code is 0. So when they call you up and say, what's the lockbox code? 0. Can you remember that? 0. The last one I bought, you press 0 one time, lockbox comes open. One before that, I had to press 0 4 times. 0, 0, 0, 0. Only reason you have a lockbox, keep the kids out of the house. I mean, if it weren't for that, I'd leave the door unlocked. But you don't want to do that. Kids will go in there and wreak havoc. So, we send people to houses. We don't meet people at houses. Look at that application and receipt agreement. That piece of paper right there was going to save you guys a boatload of grief, if you understand it. What that piece of paper is the following. All it is a receipt for the deposit from your prospect. It says, I am accepting your deposit if I approve your application. I will keep your deposit and apply it toward your down payment. If I do not approve your application, I will give you your deposit back. But if I approve your application and then you back out on me, I will keep your deposit. It also says I have the right to get all the information I need from you about your credit and your life history. That is not a contract to sell the house. That piece of paper does not take the house off the market. So based on that, how many of those application receipt agreements should you get per house signed by your buyers?
As many as you can get.
A dozen would be good. You can keep right on selling that house till the check is in your hand. Because, folks, I'm going to tell you something. Just because you got a buyer, and just because they appear qualified, and just because they give you a deposit, if I were you, I wouldn't be spending your money just quite yet. Because you got a ways to go between now and the time you get paid. And an awful lot of things can happen. Some are in your control, some are not. Your objective is to get a commitment from your buyer as soon as possible, and the more money you collect from that buyer as a deposit, the more commitment you have and the better chance you got of closing. But you do not want to take the house off the market and sign a purchase and sale agreement just because you got a deposit. When you get into those blue and those green courses, you will learn about that affidavit memorandum concerning real estate. That piece of paper that you can sign when a seller signs a contract to you, which will cloud their title and keep them from selling the house to anyone but you. The minute you sign a purchase and sale agreement with your buyer, they can do the same thing to you if they were to get wind of that. They can cloud your title and make a mess. You don't want a purchase and sale agreement in the hands of a buyer until you know it's about to go to underwriting and get approved. Capiche? Besides, you don't want to take the house off the market until you know you got a buyer. This is one beautiful document. When you get a chance, you read it, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. And you're welcome. Step 7, constructing and presenting offers. Well, what the heck does that mean? We already own the house. What's he talking about? Well, did you know that you have to construct and present offers to buyers just like you do sellers? The more flexible you are, the easier it is to get them sold. For example, you might want to take stuff on trade for down payments, as we discussed. Always leave that option open. If you have to put a note in front of you wherever you're talking to these people, we'll take trades. Don't ever forget that. That's a fun part of the business. It really is. And incidentally, are you ever going to give anybody dollar for dollar value for equity of whatever they have? If they got a $30,000 motorhome, that doesn't mean you're going to give them $30,000 worth of equity in real estate for it, does it? No. You might give them more. What do you care? You may want the motorhome more than you care about the equity. I don't know. When I traded for my motorhome, I got a 30-foot Southwind absolutely free. With a generator, 2 air conditioners, it was a cool machine. I got absolutely free. I traded some second mortgages for my motorhome. And I drove that thing for 5 years and sold it. It was a $30,000 motorhome. I sold it for $12,500 5 years later. Every time I crank that thing up and go somewhere, I'd spend money on it. In the 5 years I had it, I replaced both air conditioners and the generator, and God knows what else. Free. Oh, it's a free motorhome, all right. Be flexible on what you take for a down payment. You may also wish to sell it with owner financing or a lease purchase if your down payment is several $1,000s. In addition to that, when you get to the Paper Power Boot Camp, Bob Leonetti will teach you how to sell it with owner financing and cash out that day. You don't really care how the buyer bought it as long as you get cashed out. Bob will cash you out by buying that note you just created. So the more flexible you are, the easier it's going to be. Here's the keys. Selling houses fast. Find a buyer who loves a house and has either money or credit and find a way to finance them. So let me give you a couple of examples here. All right, picture this. I got the house ready to go. I'm running ads and I'm putting up signs and people are calling me. Now Pat Live is faxing me over or emailing me over these applications on the property. Our applications are actually just scripts, short scripts on the property. Here, I got a whole bunch of today. Let's see, I got 12 calls today. 2 of them have 3,000. 1 of them has 6,000. 4 out of today's batch says their credit is good. 3 of them say it's fair. Oh, there's one that says they got good credit and $3,000. Bingo. They go to the top of the pile. There's one that's got good credit and $1,000. They go right up there somewhere. There's one that's got $12,000 to put down, but they check their credit is ugly. Yep, they go up there too, because they're worth calling. Why? There's 12,000 reasons I want to call them. Absolutely. Okay. So now I'm taking today's pile and narrowed down to 2 or 3 callers, and now I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling them back and I'm finding out what they got to work with by asking them the answers on that script if Pat Live haven't already got it. If Pat Live has already got it, I just want to verify that they do have the money and that their credit is good, fair, or ugly. And by the way, if they say their credit is ugly, I'm going to say, what is ugly about it? Because a lot of people think their credit is ugly and it's not really ugly. They just got slow payments. And somebody told them their credit was bad. Listen, if they don't have foreclosures and bankruptcies on their credit, it's not ugly. And if they got bankruptcies, it's not ugly, it's just fair. Anybody can get financed with a bankruptcy that is over as long as they got something to work with afterwards. Foreclosures are harder to beat than bankruptcies. Foreclosures is the kiss of death. But I have had people get financed with foreclosures on their record with a good explanation, as long as they weren't last year. Hard to get people financed that just come out of foreclosure. I can't understand how the lenders feel that way, but they do. I mean, give another chance. Anyway, let's just say we got somebody, we got an application here, they've given us the information we need, we fax it over to the lender. Lender says, well, you know, I can get them financed, but you want to sell it for $80,000. I just can't get them a dime more than 85% LTV. And they got $3,000. Okay? So you know they got $3,000 down. Somebody figure out what the LTV is for 85% of 80. 68. Right? Okay, how come you let the old guy figure it out before you did? 68. However, am I going to sell it for 80? Now let me get this. Let's suppose I even said I'd sell it for 80. Opened my big mouth and told the world I'd sell it for 80. And the buyer comes in and they said, I've heard 80. And then I find out that they can't get more than 85% LTV. I simply say, listen, I'm going to raise the price to 88. I'm going to get you 85% of that. I'm going to take your 3, and you're going to owe me the rest. That's a cost of having crappy credit. Whose fault is they got crappy credit? Theirs or mine? Theirs. Now watch. I raise the price to 88. So we whack that. Oh, let's just add a little curlicue up there. All right. Now, we do have to get it appraised for 88, don't we? Who thinks we're going to have trouble getting an $80,000 house appraised for 88? You don't have a problem with that. If you do, the worst case is they might make you lower it to 85, 86, whatever. In fact, let me just bear that out. I just recently had a case. Oak Lane. Had the house on the market for $64,900. Just a little teensy weensy little box, small house, hard to sell. Had a qualified buyer. Appraisal come back at 57. Andy called me up and said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Appraisal come back at 57. I said, well, Andy, we got 2 choices the way I see it. You could either get the gun out of the drawer and put the bullets in there, and we'll simultaneously put it behind each other's left ears and pull the trigger. And I said, by the way, you first. Or, how about this? How about we get another appraisal? He says, oh, that sounds good. Can you do that? And I said, yep. He says, I didn't know that. I said, I know that. So we ordered another appraisal. Only this time we ordered an appraisal that we ordered, not that the lender ordered. Okay? We told the appraiser the sales price is $64,900. He said, I understand. Guess what the appraisal come back at? $65,000. Correct. Do you see how easy it would have been for us to cave in and lose $8,000 by listening to the morons? By the way, the house ain't worth a dime more than $57,000. What it's worth, $65,000 now. And if I do another one, that's closed deal. If I do another one in a neighborhood, guess which one I'm going to use for a comp? You bet. This was a 700 and some odd square foot house. Hard to sell. Yeah. But it's a goner now. For $64,900, I might add. Okay. So we raised price, we get $3,000 down. Now we do 85% of 88, which is, that one's a little harder to figure. Somebody figure that one up for me. How much? 74,800. Okay. That means we got to take back a second for 15% of 88 minus 3,000, whatever that is. I can tell you, 74, 77,800, 78, $10,200. Whoop, probably got too many zeros there. Okay, so this is our second mortgage. Now, how much cash will we get out of this deal? This, less closing costs. Are you with me? So I'm going to get 77,800 minus whatever closing costs I agreed to pay, and I'm going to pay the same closing costs whether I do it at 80 or 88, aren't I? Is that close enough? Is 77,800 cash okay to get out of a house you're trying to sell for 80 to begin with? To an unqualified borrower who can only qualify for an 85% loan? Yes? So not only that, I get a free $10,200 second mortgage I'll never collect. Or am I collected? Who knows? Some of them actually pay. I've had some that have been paying me for years. And I had some that never made the first payment. The nature of the beast. Okay, so when you guys start selling properties and you think you want to cash out of them, you're going to remember this example? Don't forget this example. You can always take back a second. Don't ever turn down a borrower or a buyer just because you think their credit score is too low. Let your lender decide what too low is. Don't try to make that decision. You cannot keep up with the loan programs that are available out there, guys and gals, because they change fast. You cannot keep up with them. The market will determine what kind of loans are available and what kind of borrowers they will accept. And there's a glut of money out there right now, a glut of money, and they have to get that money out, and they're willing to break the rules or make new rules to get rid of that money, because people in the money business must get it out or they don't get any coming back in. All they do is rent money. It's no different than if you're in the furniture business. You don't rent furniture, you don't stay in business. You don't rent money, you don't stay in business if you're a lender. And so they make the rules. The more glut of money that's available, the weirder the rules get. And I mean, they're putting people in houses that don't have a prayer of ever paying for them. Now, watch this. Down payment assistance programs. Did you know you could put people in a house with absolutely no money out of their pocket? I don't care if they got 1 red cent to their name. And here's how this works. That would be on page, On page 75. They are nonprofit organizations out there that will give your buyer a grant for the down payment. They'll give your buyer the down payment. Any amount you want them to give your buyer, they'll give your buyer for the down payment. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? Before you get too excited, any money these companies give your buyer for the down payment, you're going to wind up giving them back out of your sales proceeds. So if these companies put up a 3% down payment on a $100,000 house, how much is that? $3,000. They will send the money to closing, but they will take that $3,000 back out of your proceeds as the seller, plus a fee up to $800 per deal. So it'll cost you, if your buyer is buying a $100,000 house and they don't have a dime to their name, how much will it cost you to get them an FHA loan? $3,800. So in effect, you just sold the house for $96,200, didn't you? Unless, of course, you raise the price enough to cover it. Right. Well, you can't do that. Oh. Okay. Why use them? Why don't we just give the buyer the down payment money ourselves? What's the difference? Save $800. You can't because you can't. The rules are seller can't give buyer down payment money. Now, buyer can get it from their parents. They can get it from a relative. In fact, they can get it from anybody as a gift. Can't they? Well, doesn't that make sense then that they can get it from a nonprofit organization as a gift? The only reason you're doing this, the only reason, is to make this a legitimate transaction where you're not committing lender fraud by rigging down payments. This is not a secret to the lender that you're using this grant money. They must approve it or they won't approve the loan. And in fact, the lender is the one that will submit the application to one of these companies to get the grant money. You won't. So it's all above board. What's in it for the nonprofit organization is the $800 you're going to send them back in addition to their $3,000. Right. Now, I mean, I wished I'd have thought of this. Yeah. Think about it. You talk about loan sharks. Think about this. They wire $3,000 to the closing agent. The closing agent has instructions, don't let this money out of your hands. Make sure you wire $3,800 back to me. This is risky business. So I put up $3,000, I get $3,800 back the next day. How come I didn't think of this? Oh, man. You talk about a return on your investment. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, I just get crazy when I think about the return on the investment with this thing. They are nonprofit. Now, they are legitimate nonprofit organizations licensed by the IRS to be such. They're, in other words, and I'm telling you, that's why, and they do have a nonprofit reason for being in business. My guess is mainly to pay the salaries of the operators. If you might, but they do have a nonprofit. Now, actually, that's not true. I can tell you for a fact because I know a couple of these guys that own these personally, and they are charitable minded. And they are helping an awful lot of people get into houses, can't get in them any other way. They are performing a public service, but non-profit is an oxymoron here. I'll tell you that right now. Maybe they're not spending the profit on, I don't know. I can tell you right now, forget that non-profit junk. All right, I just told you how it works. Incidentally, it makes no difference, the buyer's qualification. These companies could care less. They don't care what their creditworthiness is. Do you see why? Yeah, they're not loaning the buyer any money. Lender sends in one-page application. Money is wired to the closing table that day. Money is wired back the next day. Plus $800. It's that fast. So how does it affect your sales price and your taxes? It doesn't, because it is an expense to you. So it will, in fact, lower your sales price as far as your accountant is concerned. He'll probably take it off your sales price. Either way, you won't pay taxes on that $3,800. Follow me? It doesn't affect your sales price. Your sales price, you don't lower your sales price. In reality, your closing statement will show you sold the house for $100,000. But it'll also show an expense down there for that $3,800. Who are they? Here they are, right there. There's three of them. There's more of them. There's three of them. The Nehemiah Corporation is the oldest and the biggest. And I will tell you that Nehemiah, as of 3 or 4 months ago, had just passed their 100,000th house that they've done this with. 100,000 houses that they've done this with. Times $800. Yeah. The fee is actually 1% of the sales price, or 800, whichever is 800 is the most they can charge. There's your website addresses. There's your phone numbers. They've all got very similar programs: Nehemiah Corporation, Ameridream, or Neighborhood Gold. Go right on their website. There's all the facts for you. And I can tell you right now, if you call one of them up on the phone and you ask them to explain the program, it'll take them 10 minutes to tell you, we put up money, we get it back, you pay us fee. They have a great way of dancing around that issue to make it sound like some charitable yada, 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 yada. Now, if you're selling a property and you're selling it FHA, and you're selling it to somebody with no money, is there any reason for you to have them put up more than the 3%? No. I mean, remember, whatever you have them put up, it's coming out of your pocket. Keep this in mind now. It's coming out of your pocket. So if I get somebody an 85% loan, why don't I just have Ameridream put up 15%? Guys, that'd be nuts. They do it, but that'd be nuts. You find out what the minimum down payment that lender requires. They only put that up. You take the rest back in a second mortgage. You don't just give it away. So you don't want them putting up any more than they have to comply with whatever the lender's minimum down payment requirement is. Everybody clear on that? Okay, they'll put up the money for the closing costs. And whatever you want them to put them up for, just remember, it's coming out of your pocket. Instead of doing that, why don't you just check off there, you're paying the closing costs. Same difference. Unless the lender requires the buyer to pay some. And also remember, it really is not common for you to sell a house and for your buyer to not have a dime to their name. They usually always have some money, don't they? Well, you get everything they got, because every dime you get out of your buyer is a dime that's not coming out of your pocket. You know, if your buyer's got $1,000, Ameridream only needs to put up $2,000, not $3,000. So get all they got. And also don't forget, you can get goods, tradable goods, as down payment as well. Look, if they got a car that they can trade to me, I can legally take that car on trade and give them $3,000 credit toward their down payment. Then I don't need Nehemiah. At least I get a car out of the deal, and I don't have to pay the $800 fee. So use common sense. Don't use them unless you need them to get the deal done. And then go for it. I've got students all over the country using them. They're a great source. Your motivation is to get the rest of the cash. Don't worry about the little bit you got to give up to get the rest of it. Any questions on that? You guys want to ask questions on that? Go to the mic. I'll be happy to take them on that. I know that's a little complicated first time you hear it. It took me a while to understand it.
I want to find out if you had any problems with seasoning on titles with houses, not owning them.
Seasoning?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And how
Yes.
do you tackle that?
Some lenders, what he's talking about, some lenders have a problem with the seller not owning the property long enough. They want 6 months, some of them want a year for the seller to own the property because of all the investor scams going on around the country from all these morons who are trying to destroy the business for the rest of us by committing lender fraud. First, let me do a little bit of history lesson. The reason they want seasoning is because they don't trust investors anymore, especially those investors who buy them cheap and sell them high shortly thereafter. Those scumbags. What they forgot about was all the work we put into them in the middle, you know. But there is a bunch of fraud going on out there. Really where the problems lie is where investors rig down payments, falsify documents, rig appraisals, and do all that junk that you guys do not need and should not be doing. They're making it hard for the rest of us. They're not making it hard for me. So the lenders come up with this new rule. They want 6 months seasoning. That means they want the seller to own the property for 6 months. But please remember, that's only some lenders. Not all lenders. Just some lenders. That's their rule. That's not federal law or something. So if you got to, first thing you might want to ask your mortgage broker, if you just bought the property and you're selling it within the first 6 months, am I going to have to own this property for 6 months before I can sell it? And if the answer is no, you proceed. If the answer is yes, you go find another lender. That's it. You just tell them, I've only owned it 3 months, go find another lender. Now, there's all kinds of other ways to handle it. For instance, you could put a lease option tenant in there, or you can, in fact, sell the note. Can you sell the thing with owner financing and sell the mortgage off to Bob Leonetti? Yes. It's the same as cashing out if you went down and get him a new loan, but he don't care about seasoning. I'll tell you how I fix it. Just whack the lender and go get another one. That's how I fix it. Yes?
Yes, Ron, with the Nehemiah program, is the lender aware of this, that the buyer is going to be doing that program?
As I said, the lender's the one that submits the application to Nehemiah. Your mortgage broker or lender is fully aware of Nehemiah. They have all the stuff they need to get that job done. Not all lenders will accept Nehemiah, Ameridream, or Neighborhood Gold. They will not. But there's hundreds of them out there. You don't need to worry about that. You go let your mortgage lender, you tell them I need a Nehemiah or Ameridream on this one. They'll know what you're talking about.